Hello everyone, and welcome to the channel. I've been wanting to make this series for a really long time, and so today I just said, you know what, we're gonna do it today. We're not gonna wait till tomorrow. We have our plans, we're just gonna sit down and do it. For a little bit of context, I started playing this game about, I think 8 years ago. It must have been either right before or right after The Last Jedi, I can't remember, but I remember things like Jedi Knight Revan and General Anakin Skywalker were super powerful. Enfys Nest was a pain in the ass. All that stuff, that ceiling is like close to the floor these days, it feels like. There's Galactic Legends, all kinds of crazy ships. And the question has become, is it possible to keep up with people that spend a lot of money on this game? That's the whole point of this series, and it's not meant to hate on people that spend money. You know, you want to spend your money, you spend your money. It's not my place to tell you to not spend your money how you want. But for those of us who don't want to necessarily drop money on this game, is it possible to keep up? I believe it is, and that's part of the reason I made this series. That's part of the reason I made the plan that I made, which we'll go over in just a minute. But part of the reason I made the plan that I made, and part of the reason that I wanted to make it a series instead of just trying it myself and just playing it on my computer by myself and seeing. Because there is a lot of sentiment out there that, oh, they're just trying to get as much money from people as they can. And maybe they are, but it doesn't mean you can't keep up as a free-to-play player. Theory crafting, yes, it's pretty much dead, but there is a bit of wiggle room still in there. But theory crafting alone is not the part of this series that I am most excited about. I am excited because I have a to Z plan, really, that kind of goes over my plans, how to keep up, how to get these top-end players. Sorry, we're just flying through these levels here. I love it. But how to keep up with all these people, right? So that comes from being efficient. That comes from using what resources you get wisely, which I guess falls under the efficiency. But when I say efficiency, I mean more along the lines of being very consistent with our farms and using our crystals that we have to do refreshes, to go after the characters, to unlock them sooner, to move ourselves forward faster. So I have 5 different categories, 6 kind of, but 5 main categories that I want to be going over as far as the farms. First one is the most predictable one by far. Second one definitely branches off into something a little bit more wow, but the first farm, super predictable, but that's because it just makes the most sense. It doesn't make sense if we're going for efficiency to not go after Galactic Legend Leia first, but there's a little bit of a twist in here in that we're not technically going after Leia first. What we are actually going after first is the Home 1 fleet, and a very specific Home 1 fleet, right? Because we want to be able to, like I said, beat the people that spend money on this game. We want to be able to keep up. We want to be able to not just keep up, we want to be able to win. So going after the specific Home 1 fleet that I'm talking about here with the Ghost, the Spectre, the Raven's Claw, the Raven's Claw, the B-Wing, the Millennium Falcon, the Cassian's U-Wing, and the Y-Wing. That is the very specific Home 1 fleet that I want to go after. And that's not going to be our first fleet. We're going to have to kind of mix and match until we get those ships. But that is a very good early fleet to have because it can keep up with everything on the top end to a certain degree. And if you play smart, you can always pretty much outthink the bots in this game. If you do that, you can get a lot of crystals early on by being in the top of things like Fleet Arena. So before even we go after Galactic Legend Leia, we're going to be going after the Home 1 fleet. And if we can keep up with that, if we can get a whole lot of crystals, that'll make everything, all 5 gajillion things that I'm about to say next, it'll help us so much in those farms. So we'll do the Home 1 fleets. We'll get our nice little Lightspeed tokens for Drogon with the Rebel faction token, and Akbar, we'll get that. We'll get a few nice other teams with the Lightspeed tokens as well. Things like Inquisitors, which you can always just throw down on defense in Grand Arena and hope to snipe a few banners. things like the Beskar Mandalorian will be super useful. We'll do Galactic Legend Leia next because she just makes the most sense to go after early. She just makes the most sense out of all of them. If the Lightspeed tokens weren't here, there's another path I would take, which I'll go over in a little bit, but we'll do GL Leia. That'll be our first Galactic Legend. She'll be so useful, especially when we inflate our GP up to 4,000 for things like Conquest and Proving Grounds to get ourselves some lifters for other Galactic Legends we'll be unlocking down the road. Once we go after Galactic Legend Leia, what we'll do is we will farm some Bounty Hunters and get the Millennium Falcon, which is part of that Home One fleet. We want to farm it first, but again, we will have to kind of make do until we get all these ships that we're trying to get. Ships are a very slow farm. So we'll farm the Bounty Hunters and we'll unlock the Falcon, and because we'll farm the Bounty Hunters and the Bounty Hunter ships, we'll also go after the Executor, which is a top-end ship. And so we'll have the Falcon for our Home 1 fleet, which will help us out, and then we'll also have the characters and the ships for the Executor, which is a top-end ship. I think the third best ship in the game. Very useful. It's very, very useful. It's a top-end ship, and I definitely need it to achieve what we're trying to achieve here. Then with the Bounty Hunters, we'll go after Jabba. We'll go after Jabba. That'll be our second Galactic Legend. Another great Galactic Legend to have. He's just super useful. And he can be a pain in the butt. He's useful in things like territory battles. I almost said wars. Territory battles. He's definitely useful in territory wars too, but territory battles, specifically Rise of the Empire, which will be something that we want to hit. So we'll get him, and then because we'll have the Phoenix and the Rebel ships unlocked, we'll also definitely be hitting the Chimera, and that'll just be a place for us to put our dark side ships that we did not really have room for on the Executor. The ones that don't go with the Executor will go on the Chimera, and we'll also be farming some other characters a little bit further down the road that we'll use there as well. But so we'll get the Chimera. That'll be a home for our dark side ships until we find a better place for them, a more permanent place for them. Then we'll go after the Profundity, which we'll have made pretty good progress on already, thanks to things like the Home 1 fleet and Leia. So that'll be that's the second best ship in the game, and I'll definitely love to have that. And then once we get that, we'll have to branch off just a little bit and go after things like BB-8 and Jedi Training Ray, because we will finish the Skywalker Triangle and get GL Luke, who is getting a lifter in Jedi Training Leia pretty soon. It'll be another great reason to have Leia, because Leia is so good in Proving Grounds, right? She's so good in Proving Grounds that it's another reason to farm her first. So you get your Leia for Proving Grounds, and you inflate your GP for Proving Grounds, and you inflate it for hard mode on Conquest, and you can start getting some of these characters before Proving Grounds. But yeah, we'll have to farm our First Order team for BB-8. We'll have to farm a Resistance team for Jedi Training Ray, which it'll be nice to have. It'll give us a few more ships as well. A few more pilots for the ships, I should say. So we'll get BB-8s, and then we'll get Jedi Training Ray, and then we'll get Jedi Master Luke. And that'll be the end of what's pretty predictable here. We kind of branch off from here, and we do something a little bit different. So by this point, we'll have 3 Galactic Legends, 2 of the 3 top capital ships and fleets, 2 other fleets for leftover ships, and some other additional teams that have some uses of their own that we'll build along the way, right? But then we're going to get into what I call the Old Republic Arrow. And that sounds a little bit weird maybe, but you have to trust me on this one. What the plan is, oh, here we go. Look at all these. These are all free Zetas, Lightspeed tokens, all this stuff. So we'll be hitting these pretty quickly if we can. The Old Republic Arrow starts off with a Jedi Knight Revan, and then Darth Revan, and then Malik, and then the 5-way of Imperial Troopers, Malgus, Leviathan, Sith Eternal, and Starkiller. And that sounds weird, I know. It sounds very, very weird, and you'll just have to kind of hear me out on this. So Jedi Revan, we'll do him first because he'll take his place, temporary home, on the Jedi Master Luke team. And that being his home for a while will be pretty good. Luke is not the best But especially at that point in the game, I think it'll be useful to have. Because if we can be efficient, we'll also have a huge advantage in things like Grand Arena, or people who are just kind of impulse farming. Which is, I will admit, I'm guilty of on my main account. But once we get Jedi Revan on the Luke team and we've done all that, and he's got his temporary home until we get things like Satil Shan, we'll go to Darth Revan. And Darth Revan is another great character to have. He can fit, or he can do well with a team on his own, but he'll do even better with Malik. And once we have those two, we'll do the top of the arrow, which is the Imperial Troopers and Malgus and Leviathan and Sith Eternal and Starkiller. Because going into this, we'll already have 3 Galactic Legends, right? We'll have our Leia, we'll have our Jabba, and we'll have our Luke. 2 of those 3 are really good to have. So we should be able to win pretty much everything in PvE, right? And we should also be able to do well for ourselves in PvP. And so the rewards should help speed things along. But the Imperial Troopers will want if for no other reason than the fleets they have, and because they're a nice team that you can make farming even better things. So we'll want to farm both Imperial Troopers. Iden is just a cheap, or definitely relatively cheap, a cheap way for a cheap team that's really good. You can use some pretty much day 1 characters and do well for yourself. So we definitely want to farm her. She has a nice ship as well, which again, fleets, big thing that we're aiming for. And the other Imperial Troopers be useful for things like Sith Eternal. We'll get Sith Eternal through farming the characters like Maul for the Leviathan. We'll have to farm that for Sith Eternal as well. Maul will farm Yet, and that'll just be, we'll have already farmed Yet actually, and we'll already have him at requirement level for Sith Eternal. And then a bunch of other Sith Eternal requirements are pretty much things that we'll have farmed along the way anyway, right? So, like I said, Piet's Relic 5, Maul's Relic 4, TIE Bomber will have farmed as well. Tarkin, Beers and Stark will have farmed that already, or we'll need to farm that for Sith Eternal. Thrawn will have farmed up already. Jedi Knight Anakin will already have the Lightspeed token for. Dooku, Krennic, stuff like that. Maybe not, but Palpatine will have already gotten stuff for. Vader will definitely hit. And so much of this stuff will have just lined up for other things that we're doing. So it just kind of makes sense to go for all these at the same time. And then Starkiller as well. I kind of glossed over Starkiller, but gosh, I need to level these guys up. Starkiller will have farmed Talon for the Darth Revan team. And then we'll have farmed pretty much the rest for either the Revan farm himself or the Leviathan or Malik or anything else. So we'll pretty much have done most of this stuff just by natural progression. So I feel pretty good about that. We can farm Talon pretty early as well. That'll speed us along for Starkiller. Then we're going into something I call the Clone Wars composition. And this is something that I was thinking about farming anyway. I was thinking about making it my first farm, and maybe we will a bit later down the line when the Lightspeed tokens don't make going for Leia pretty much common sense. And by getting to this point, we'll have 4 GLs, the top 3 fleets in the game, and a bunch of other teams that are very useful. So once we get into the Clone Wars composition, we'll farm things like the Bad Batch, and we'll do the Endurance/Negotiator fleet. We'll farm Padme Amidala, General Anakin Skywalker, Jedi Master Mace Windu, and then we'll hit Lord Vader. So just by farming Gas and Mace Windu and Padme and all that stuff, we'll have Lord Vader's best team. So that'll be nice to have rolling straight in. When Vader came out initially, he was not particularly good because it just took him too long, I feel like. But now he's got a good team, and with Tarkin leveled up, you'll have a nice 3v3 team there as well. Or actually, I guess 2 nice 3v3 teams with Lord Vader and the Tarkin lead. And then once we get Lord Vader, we'll hit things like Master Kenobi, because most of that, there's a fair amount of overlap there. It's a nice, hello, what do we got here? Events, all right. So we'll have done Bad Batch, that'll give us a nice ship for our Rebel fleet, our Republic fleets. Then we'll put together the Republic fleet. We'll use that in the gas events. We'll have to unlock Padme before that, so we'll do a Separatist team, including things like Dooku, which we used for the Sith Eternal unlock. So put together a team there. We'll hit gas. With Jedi Master Mace Windu, we'll have Vader's team. And then we'll go for Vader himself. We'll get Master Kenobi. Then we'll go after things like Baylan Skoll and the Great Mothers, which it's very late to be going after them. At that point, I feel like. I would go after them a lot earlier if going for the Leia and all that didn't make so much sense. But it does. So we're going to do Baylan and the Great Mothers, and then we'll go after Ahsoka Tano. Because that just kind of flows one thing into the next, one thing into the next. It just makes sense. But then we go into the Outliers category, which is pretty much most of the stuff that's left, right? So things like the Finalizer, Supreme Leader Kylo Ren, the Radis, Rey, Pirate King Hondo, but then other things as well, like Traya, Third Sister, and so on. And some of that will fall into the when you can farm category. So that will also include things like Jedi Knight Cal Kestis, Bo-Katan Mandalore, which again, Lightspeed tokens, huge help there. You can get 3 out of her 4 requirements to relic level for absolutely free. And then things like Afro will probably be done around Hondo's time. Grand Inquisitor, we can farm him for the fleets, but again, not a, hey, here you have to do this at this very specific point. Cassian Undercover, just not a huge want for me. Jar Jar Binks, not a huge want for me. I think we could get him, but I don't want to divert resources from anything else that I've already talked about to get him. I don't feel like that's the most efficient use of the resources. Rod of the Hutt, not even on my blip, on my radar right now. Maul, Hatred, again, not even really a blip on my radar. We do have some priority proving grounds and conquest characters, namely Malgus, the Fury Class Interceptor, and Bane. Bane is just so useful, but can't really get them until you get to proving grounds, and they still take a long time at that point. So, but then also the lifters in there, right? So things like Ben Solo for Rey, Commander Ahsoka Tano for Master Kenobi, Ezra Exile for Ahsoka, Jedi Training Leia for JML. And these guys are huge helps. And the teams honestly don't feel right without them, so definitely want to hit that 4 million GP as soon as possible, because the sooner we do that, the sooner we can get these guys, the sooner we can lift our Galactic Legends up. Leia is not the only, is one of the few I feel like that doesn't have a dedicated lifter. But I have a few ideas for that, and I'll go over those in a different video. Wantan Boar is definitely going to be a priority farm, so I'm gonna have to get into a good guild for that. But I think that is just something that will kind of happen naturally in the background, and it won't be something I have to take time away from anything else to. And that's, again, just do it whenever you can. So yeah, that's pretty much the plan that I have. Doesn't encompass 100% of everything, but it does get a fair amount, and I'm sure we'll be adjusting a little bit, finessing things a little bit, or making things a little bit more smooth and clean. Yeah, that is the plan that we have. Very excited to go on this journey with you guys. I'm excited to go on this little path though and see where it takes us, because so much is different, and I'm curious as to how much is different. And I don't intend to keep this account forever, but I am intending to take it to where I can. And if it turns out we can't, then we can't. If we can't keep up, we can't keep up, and that's that, and that's okay. In terms of this series, at least. Whether or not that's acceptable will, I guess, be up to you guys. But yeah, that's all I've got for today. I've been talking for way too long. I'm going to just hit as far into the level barrier as I can, go as high as I can. We'll be here for an update tomorrow, and you can see how far I got in day 1. But thank you guys for watching. Be sure to subscribe, stick around, all that fun stuff, because we're going to be doing not just this series, we're going to be doing stuff on the main account. We're going to be doing a bit of a, I almost call it a wish list series, because there's so many things I want in this game that I'm going to go over in future video, series of videos even, that I'm just excited for you guys to be here for. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys later.